are live. Patrice, say hello to everyone.
Hello to everyone.
Everyone, my name is Max McGillivray from Beanstalk. Been really looking forward to this broadcast. As we know, there's so much happening in the field of ag tech, and so much is happening that's going to be doing good. And we're always, myself and the Beanstalk crew, are always looking out for individuals and businesses that are going to make because my big word of the week, fundamental difference to agriculture on a European and a global perspective. And we found Patrice. Patrice, would you agree with that statement?
Absolutely.
Excellent. So let's just especially for those people that are listening on the podcast, and we're now live on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. But I really want to give a bit of background to everyone on Patrice and his business, Biotalys, so that you can investigate, look, find out, follow Patrice and Biotalys, because this is actually very, very important as to the changes that are going to happen, as I say, on a global basis. So Patrice, just bear with me whilst I go for this. Okay, so you have to break new ground to sustainably produce safe, healthy food. And that's what this is what Patrice and his colleagues have done with their innovative proprietary technology platform. They have turned the chemical rule book upside down and literally gone back to basics. The cutting edge protein-based biocontrols effectively protect crops against pests and diseases while keeping the environment, the farmer, and the consumer safe. They address the entire food life cycle, extending protection from farm to fork. If you've not heard of Biotalys, or not heard of Patrice, you will do after this broadcast. So let's talk about Patrice. He's got a very international background. And Patrice, we have a lot of graduates that dial in on a UK and international basis, and they always ask us, ask them, Max, about the background. We want to find out about the background, because how else can we learn but from sort of a process of osmosis, that if we could sort of duplicate your background with these younger individuals, they'll know the route to go to create success, not only for their own career, but also for the sector as a whole. So Patrice, he is a leader and creative entrepreneur, passionate about turning food and ag tech innovations into highly successful, sustainable businesses. He has an outstanding knowledge about the international agro-industry dynamics, with a 20-year track record in closing strategic deals with ag tech innovators and large agricultural corporations, and has led international teams from 30 people to 300 people in 10 different countries in a broad range of businesses, focusing on creating a collaborative and outperforming culture. He is adamant that the industry needs to create a safer, more sustainable food chain. Prior to joining Biotalys in 2019, he held a number of leadership roles at the great business Syngenta, including developing the science and technology strategy, as well as deploying a technology acquisition team to establish strategic partnerships and licensing agreements in crop protection, biologicals, and biotechnology. Prior to that, he was an investment manager at Life Science Partners Bioventures in the USA, where he led multiple investment deals in the food and ag tech ecosystem and joined the board of directors of 3 portfolio companies. Patrice started his career in scientific management roles in various industries, bringing chemical ingredients from early stage discovery to development and scale up. He is a chemical engineer and received his PhD in organic chemistry from a key university in Paris, France. So Patrice, have I described Biotalys and yourself appropriately, please?
You absolutely have. A little bit too much on myself, but definitely bringing me back to old days. Biotalys indeed is one of these companies today that are trying to change the way we produce food, the way we protect food as well, along the entire food value chain. And you did that perfectly, Max.
Okay, and just to come back to yourself, and if it's okay, this is not a time to be modest. You as an individual, you could have gone off into, I don't know, politics, corporate management, greater industry. You could have gone into investment banking. Why did you go into the world of agriculture? Why?
I think starting as a chemist, you have the life science that is obviously the main direction. You can go to the pharmaceutical sector. I did my PhD with Aventis in the pharma oncology sector, but then I realized that there was more. You cure people once, but you feed people every day. And I had a chance to find really some engaging people within Syngenta earlier on that convinced me that it was the right place to be. So as a chemist, I moved into that space and I never left since then.
That's fascinating. Also, the back of it, a phrase that's I'm sure a lot of people are very bored of me saying, but I've always been taught, especially now with us hopefully getting through the back end of the pandemic, that in a world recession or a world pandemic, people have got to do one of two things. They've got to eat and they've got to clean. So if you're in the eating industry, you're always going to have success. And also, don't know about yourself within your network. Over the last couple of years, we've found that the younger generation want to do good and are really interested about developing themselves and their careers within the food, within the agricultural sphere. And you can just see that with a number of, well, crikey, talking to the converted, number of startups that are happening in this whole area. That there's a bit of a problem with some of the universities in the UK, that they feel that they're not getting enough students coming through, that their pipeline has always been farming families, presenting them graduates to join those universities. Is there anything that you could give advice-wise on a UK European basis as to how we can attract more students, graduates, either into universities, or universities not the route for everyone? There's lots of amazing apprenticeship schemes as well. But what would your magic dust, your magic wand be to attract those into the sector so we can carry on this momentum, please?
It's a great question. I think what I see within Biotalys, we have a lot of young people with us, and there is the notion of the mission of the organization. What do we do as an organization altogether? What are we trying to achieve? And that creates a lot of momentum to bring new talents, new young people. We have really young people that for some of them, it's their very first job. And when they share with us what they love with Biotalys, is the notion that what they are doing is having an impact on the overall future that they are building, basically. And that's what triggers them to be present. And I think in France, we have the same challenges about bringing those young people into being really self-driven towards their own future. And it's difficult to do that in certain environments. As you mentioned, in universities, it's exactly the same challenge. So we have to give them a mission. We have to let them understand that what they do has an impact. And when we do that, well, it changes a little bit as you said, the momentum around that.
Yeah, I'm smiling because I think that the likes of Biotalys is a bit like Tesla. Is a bit like Facebook. You're a relatively new company, and you don't have any of the legacy of older companies, and therefore you are actually very attractive to this younger generation. We've been very privileged to have a key individual on previously from the likes of Tesla, and when we started talking about that, the way they explained Tesla wasn't a job for them. It was Patrice, it's a bit like a cult, but a very good one. But they just loved it, and the management structure of it. And we very quickly ascertained that culture came from the top, and I could just tell from you that you and your colleagues will be very empowering, because that you want to do good by bringing that younger generation in, but also they are the future. You got to grow your own. You don't want to be employing people from similar sectors who are perhaps stuck in a mold. With those younger individuals, they've got such a free. Why am I telling you? You know this, but so are you out looking for that younger generation to come and join your business, to be part of the future?
Absolutely. We have a lot of very good position in our organization as we are growing. We've been growing since I think doubling in size over the last 3 years, and we are now around 75 people. We have people in the US, we have people in Europe, and we try to get these talents, these people that are really motivated. If people think that they're going to get a 9-to-5 job in Biotalys and that's it, no, that's not the case. As you said, it's about passion. If you want to have an impact, you have to be passionate about what you are doing. That's what we are looking for. But we are also looking at very specific scientific skills in order to complement that you cannot always find in the younger generation. The people who are going to also lead this younger generation towards developing themselves for the next job that they're going to have, that may not be with us. And I think that's an important factor of what we are trying to build, is attracting the people by the mission and building them to become their own leaders.
Yeah, so you've got to have that complement, haven't you, although I'm being my normal jingoistic side, and it might sound like the only future is the young, but actually having a mixed team is so important, because that team can evolve, and those of a mature age through osmosis can show that younger generation. As that younger generation step up, then the next set can come through. There's the issue within farming, especially within the likes of the UK, that the average farmer is 58, and that there's no succession. And as a leader within your business, and I could just tell that you've got this sorted. You've got to be very careful to make sure that you're bringing the right people in to keep that going. I've just had a WhatsApp from the team, which is can you ask Patrice to give us the elevator pitch as to Biotalys? What do you do? Just give us that elevator pitch. So in simple terms, I've obviously read out a little bit, but in your terminology, what do you do, please?
We leverage the pharmaceutical technologies that has been invented in Belgium, which is about creating proteins that have been helpful to cure people against certain diseases. These proteins are very small, very stable. You can obtain them by fermentation. And what we can do as well, if you can cure people, you can imagine that you can also cure plants. And the idea of Biotalys was basically to use this underlying pharmaceutical technology and to bring that into the hands of the growers. Small proteins that can help the growers to find alternative solutions to the chemical pesticides that they are using today, with the same level of efficacy and protecting safely their field, because these proteins are biodegradable by nature. So not only would they protect the plant against certain diseases, as you said, insects, fungal disease, potentially virus as well, and at the end of the day, they will dissipate in the environment without leaving any trace. That's the ideal setup, is to say you can protect your plants without impacting the environment in which these plants are growing. This is what Biotalys is doing. Boom.
Got it. Well done. Got that sorted, and that makes it crystal clear for me. The team has said, I've given a big thumbs up. Understood. Okay, so with the consumer, because everything's driven by the consumer, there's currently a big willingness, what we believe, for the consumer to pay more for organic produce, or produce that is branded as cleaner, healthier, and more nutritious, especially on the back of the pandemic. That we're definitely seeing it, whether it be Kantar information or just colloquial information that we're picking up from our clients, that people want to buy fresher food. So that's really accelerating the whole agriculture and the fresh produce sectors. And the future of agriculture needs to be, of course, driven by sustainability, because we've only got one planet and we've got to look after it. And that does not always mean organic. What's your thoughts with your background with Biotalys as to this whole debate about organic or non-organic, sustainability, non-sustainability? I know it's a big question, but what's your views of that, please?
I think as humans, we love when it's either black or white. So you have the conventional agriculture using pesticides, nitrogen fertilizers, and then you have the beautiful organic, which is white knight basically, and doing the right stuff. I think we have it wrong. As always, it's not black and white, it's just in between. We wouldn't be there, you and I today, talking, if it was not for conventional agriculture. Since the last World War, there was an incredible development. We were in a situation where we have, let's say, developed a system around cheap food for everyone. That was the idea. So do as much as possible and get the most that you can out of your acres, so that you can get the better price. It was all about volumes, not quality. Now, today we are shifting. The idea is that we do realize the global warming is here and it's not gone. It's not going to go away. We do realize that we've got a lot of challenges, especially nowadays with what's happening in Ukraine. And we are transitioning towards this cheap food from everybody into an affordable food for us and for the planet, because our planet has to afford it as well. And that lies in between. It's not that organic is good or that conventional is bad. It's about using the right tools at the right time to be as sustainable, meaning the least potential impact on our environment, on our assets as possible.
Understood. So with this drive for healthier food, do you think there is a do you think that this approach of conventional on organic, and there seems to be this need to measure it on the environmental, the economic, the societal impact with these changes that we've got? And you mentioned about the likes of Ukraine. Let's just look at the fuel issue at the moment. Within the UK, we've been now told by our government that they want to pause the decommissioning of coal burning power station because we're going to be running out of energy. And likewise, they've done something very peculiar, that they banned an initiative that was going to stop a cheap promotion of high sugar and high fat foods, which everyone is very, very resentful about. We've got some strange times coming up, Patrice. Do you think that we do need to promote organic sustainability, or are we just going to get into this issue that we actually just need to physically feed people, a bit like post the Second World War, that we are coming into a bit of an alarmist period? Where do you think this is going? Where do you think this is going over the next couple of years?
That's a very interesting question. I wish I could answer that, Max. The point is that you see a number of people today that are worried about the food supply, and then they say, oh, stop all this thing about organic and all the stuff. We need to feed the people. And that's right. In a way, that's right. We need to feed the people. We see that our food value chain as a whole, with just the impact that the grain, for example, in Ukraine is having, the grain and the oil, basically everything is all of a sudden shaken by this situation. But at the same time, I think we need to pause and to reflect and to say, so are we very much like in the pandemic? I think it's the transition from what we learned in the pandemic around vaccines and what we are learning around food today. We don't have to forget that our food system is extremely inefficient. We lose, and we along the entire food value chain, we lose around 30% of all what we aim at producing. 30%. So is it not the time to reflect rather on doing things better, instead of all of a sudden saying, oh no, just forget about all these new technologies, just forget about this. It's not time for that. It's time to feed the people. I think here again, we need to focus on what matters is to have a lesser potential impact on the environment and continuously feeding the people, of course.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And some people don't like this comment, but we did a broadcast with South Africa, and there's a lot going on in South Africa. And there was a lovely lady who's a key buyer of fresh produce for one of the big retailers. And as she said, never waste a crisis, never waste a crisis. And you've absolutely put me back on my spot in the respect of we shouldn't be alarmist and just get cheap. Now, if we're actually intelligent and strategic about it, now's the time to actually deploy key science, key inventions, key businesses like yourself and Biotalys to actually create that ongoing solution. And so just on that side, where we are, how can Biotalys actually help? What's the nuts and bolts as to how you and your colleagues can help this the situation that we've got at the moment?
Well, it's not about the Ukraine situation. It's about the food we waste and the food we lose along the entire food value chain. Today, one of the main challenges that we are facing is the lack of innovation within the chemical space. After all the major reorganization and consolidation that happened, so the Monsanto buyer, the Syngenta ChemChina, UPL Arista, you've seen an enormous consolidation at the top of the major ag players, the one that were supposed to innovate in that field. And today, what you see is that the innovation is really dropping. So less and less chemical pesticides. And at the same time, you know that in Europe, and I consider that you are in Europe, you've got the regulatory environment that is really pushing towards the farm to fork strategy, elimination of 50% of the chemical pesticides that we use in Europe within the next 10 years. So there is a pressure that is coming on both sides, which is a absolutely perfect time for companies the like of Biotalys to come and to develop new technologies. Excellent. To support, let's say, this gap and this void that is being left by the major ag players.
Yeah, well done. So you're on your proverbial white horse coming in to rescue the day. I was aware of that, but I wasn't actually aware it was so stark, that lack of innovation within this sector. I'm going to say in some respects that's criminal, but again, I suppose we needed situations like this and businesses like yours to come about to create that solution. And just to go back, just to identify more about that food waste element, there's 1.1 1 million bananas are thrown away in the UK every day, 1.1. And you think of the whole supply chain element of that, of bananas coming from, whether it be West Africa or South America, just using my phrase again, that's actually criminal that there's that waste. But maybe in this odd situation that we're in at the moment, especially with the likes of businesses of yourself and us promoting it, we can actually look to educate the consumer that they shouldn't be throwing half a meal away if they're not eating it. If they're going to buy fruit and veg, they need to buy it and look after it, to consume it properly, because everything's going to get that little more expensive. Just coming back to the organic element of it. So do you think there's the segue with the likes of yourself, your colleagues, your technology, where conventional and organics, by deploying your technologies, so sort of comes as one, morphs together, that there's a joining of conventional and organic?
Absolutely. So we have to stop opposing these solutions. You have basically a number of elements in your toolkit. You have the efficacy of the conventional chemistries that are being used today, that are still working extremely well. And again, we wouldn't be there if it was not for that chemistry being used. But we also realize that we are using too much of it. You have the safety somewhat of the organic or the organic products today that are being used, and you have to combine them. This is what we do at Biotalys. We bring these proteins that have got the same level of efficacy of the chemical pesticides, but also have the safety profile of the products that are being used in the organic space. So we basically want to create an in-between, a place where we come all together around the same direction, and mission is all about sustainability. So of course you're going to need to continue to use chemical pesticide. For the people who believe on the planet that will be 9.5 billion people in just 28 years, if people believe that we can stop using chemical pesticide, that's not true. Simply, we will need that. The question is that how much do we need that to complement together with the new solutions and together with other farming practices that includes organic farming, in order to minimize absolutely the input that we have on the land, on the soils, on the water, all these elements that are absolutely necessary for us to keep on the long term, not just for our generations, but as you said, for the next generation of farmers that we still need to find and leave them with the best potential, let's say, soils to be able to continue to feed the population.
Excellent. That's, everything you just said is an absolute game changer, and I love that thought about these trying to stop this opposing element of organics and conventional with your technology, being able to look to assist both sectors, so we can in effect feed the world. How do you see the conventional and newer, more sustainable ag practices perhaps working together in this context of minimizing the impact across all the three pillars of sustainability? And Patrice, if it's okay, just a bit of context into that. We've got within the UK, we have two big farming events in our summer. We have cereals, which just happened, which is a conventional arable show, and there's a new event called Groundswell, which is all about regenerative agriculture, and it's only been going 3 years, but the amount of traction that it's getting, and the number of people that are coming to us who are looking for the likes of farm managers and stating that we need farm managers who understand regenerative agriculture, understand sustainability, understand carbon neutral. Where do you think, what's your view, what's Biotalys' view on that whole element, please?
So my view might be different from Biotalys' view, but
well, hello.
the challenge is the continuum in agriculture. So you can do agriculture in a completely closed environment in which you don't need anything, but you have everything protected. You can use, let's say, a certain number of pollinators, insects to protect whatever you got. And then you've got the broad field, broad acres, corn, soy in Latin America that requires a lot of products to be able to be protected. Yeah. And within that, you've got exactly what you said. These farming practices that can evolve from what they are today into regenerative, into let's say more also precision agriculture. This is another point of interest, as well as environmentally friendly practices. I think like always, it's about the toolkits that you have in order to minimize the impact. We have a target. We have a clear target, which is we need to protect the land on which we grow our food, period. That's one target. So how do you do that? Well, you use all these tools to make that happen really. But then the question that I have behind that is, how much burden do we put on our growers, the people who are feeding us, by the carbon sequestration, the regenerative agriculture, when these people are already struggling a lot to be able to live out of their lands, out of their farms. Yeah. So that's a balance where we have to be very careful, from my perspective as well, Max, not to put all the burdens on, well, agriculture and farmers can solve everything. No, yeah. We have to help them.
Yeah, well, again, well said. Oh, am I going to say this? Well, let's just go for it. I don't think the Canadians are going to like me for this. A contact of mine 4 years ago, who is very passionate about ag tech and regenerative agriculture, did a study tour out to Canada, and they were very shocked as to how uninterested the Canadian farmers were in the respect of the likes of regenerative agriculture. These were broadacre farmers, and for them it was all about just pouring the chemicals on. There's this expression that I've learned over the last couple of years of driving societal change. And sometimes it needs to come from the top down. And there's a very good example within the UK of a very big pension fund 3 years ago stated to the top 100 businesses that they invest in the UK and Europe that if you don't have a diversified board by the end of 2022, we're pulling our funding. And do you know what, Patrice? They've all of those boards have now got a good mix of men and ladies within the boards, because they drove that change within the sector. And perhaps we need to influence farmers on a global basis, and it might be small starts from the likes of the events that I've talked about, the likes of Groundswell and Cereals, but also listening to the likes of yourself to pique the interest of those farmers, for them to realize actually there is a better way of doing things. The soil is so important. So on an environmental basis, yeah, we need to adopt this technology. We need to look at the likes of the products, the technology that yourself and Biotalys are bringing out.
Not only that, Max, but if I may add to what you said, it's very important. What's happening today, especially around the price of nitrogen fertilizers. You know, Ukraine is a big provider, and the price jumped out by 300%, or I think something like that. So today, the growers that are in these big acres, having to plant corn, or having had to plant corn just a few weeks ago, really ask themselves, shall I plant corn because I'm going to use a lot of nitrogen fertilizers? I'm going to have a lot of additional cost, or do I switch? And again, it can come from a positive incentive, as you mentioned, towards helping the growers, or with the pension fund that you said, is that it's a negative incentive, and that time is coming by the price of the nitrogen fertilizers that is stopping us from just doing monoculture or monocropping, of corn in that segment. And that's also making people thinking about, what do we need these crops for, and what can help me to get the best of my land without having to use nitrogen fertilizer this year, and maybe not next year either.
And do you not think that we can learn from history? Everything is very cyclical, and I think back to my sort of 20-25 years of industry, and it helps me on my day-to-day workings, that when I come across a situation, I try and get non-emotional about it, and think, what have I seen before? And likewise, presenting that forward with you, with your excellent prestigious background within the sector, where we are at the moment, what you're constantly learning within Biotalys. Where do you think this is going? Well, what's the agricultural landscape going to look like? I know it's a huge question, but I'm going to ask you because you're going to give me an answer. Where's the sector going 5 years, 10 years out? Whilst we work through the back of a pandemic, we work through fertilizer shortages or huge energy prices. What do you see the landscape being?
I think you said that, Max, just before. It starts with the education of the consumers. The more we do realize how precious is our food, the more we as consumers will have the ability to impact the way agriculture is being done. You mentioned the banana example, and that's an example that I always take. If I can pay here in France a bunch of 5 bananas for €1, what does that mean for the agricultural sector? And it's not disrespect, it's just the factual point today. The grower in Costa Rica or in Latin America who is sending this bunch of 5 bananas to Europe with a boat, a plane, you name it, and it cost me €1. Where is the value of food really truly represented? If you think about the time that it takes to grow these 5 bananas,
Yep.
and realizing that. So what to answer your question is that once we have realized the value of food, then we win. And that's the point, is that the only way for us is to realize that today our food value chain is somewhat not representing the impact of the crop, of the food on the environment. And like in France, you pay a car, the bigger car you want, the more you pay from a taxes perspective, because it pollutes, it has an impact. And in agriculture, well, it seems to be, it has to come. You have to pay the price of the food according to how much that food is impacting the environment in which you are. And so the growers and us, we will be more reasonable, especially us as consumers, and the growers will be more rewarded for doing the right things.
Yeah, well said. So 85% of all fruit and veg in the UK is sold through retailers. Retailers in the UK, you have to guide me a little bit on French retailers and European retailers. I think they're not perhaps as mercenary, as harsh as UK retailers, but it's very difficult for growers in the UK to get decent margins, for them to be able to invest in development and R&D in a brand. What's in comparison, the branded products? What's the standard throwaway line about Coca-Cola? Wherever you go in the world, 2 people have been there before you: the guy selling Michael Jackson t-shirts and the guy selling Coca-Cola. And 25% of that can of pop goes on marketing. And because of that branding that they've got, they can dictate to the retailer as to, if you want to stock Coca-Cola, you've got to accept our prices. And we've always been weak sellers, in my view, within fresh produce and agriculture, probably internationally. A friend of mine 3 years ago went to Texas and to look at some salad farms, and was amazed at the margins that they were actually making out there. And he said, well, how are you getting these margins from your local retailer? I can't do an American accent, Patrice, but the grower said, we're Texas tough. If they're not going to pay the money that we want for it, they're not having it. And so this whole combination of that 6 out of 10 kids in the UK don't know where fruit and veg comes from, but perhaps being positive and optimistic with this scenario that we're going through, people will understand the value of food and be happy to pay for it, decent food, so that they're living longer, living healthier. They don't need a £70,000 Euro BMW sat in the drive when a perfectly good Citroen will do the job. It's all about eating well. And again, just segueing back to yourselves, with your technology, being able to deploy that to be able to grow food better and more efficiently. And so it is as affordable as it can be, but the consumer being willing to pay more because they understand it. Patrice, we're going to have a win-win. Do you think if we collectively hold hands, we can do that?
I think yes, you are right. The power of the retail is quite high in Europe, and for 2 reasons. A very good reason is that they dictate, for example, the amount of pesticide residues that they want to have in the fresh fruits and vegetables. You know that well. So and usually they do not follow the regulation. They want something which is much lower. And as a consequence, this has a positive impact on what the growers are using. At least we see that from Biotalys, and forcing the growers to have some changes in the application of chemical pesticide and so on to match the residue levels that they want. So that's one thing. And then, of course, then there is the price component. The price component, and it's not as simple as what I was trying to say. It's just that on the long term, we have to solve the problem of thinking that food is just a commodity. It is not. Yeah. It is not, because it uses the best asset that we have, and the only asset that we have, which is our planet. So as such thing, food is not commodity. And we have had the tendency, as I said, over the last 50, 60 years, to treat food as a commodity. Now it's about that should stop. And if we do that, then we can shift towards the better education, better understanding where the food is coming from and how precious it is. These are these 2 elements coming together that will make that change. Now, when you look at it's easy for us to say that because we live in very well-rich, developed countries. But then you have the major population of the world that is living in different countries that are facing the same problem and even more impacted than we are today, for example, by the shortage of grain and shortage of access to food. So it's not just, again, black and white. It's not just one solution. But for example, Biotalys is also working with the Gates Foundation. It's that our products are not meant just to be applied by the growers in let's say, fully developed countries. We are also trying to solve some of the key challenges that African smallholder farmers are facing with the staple crop that they have, which is cowpea, providing them the content of protein that they need on a daily basis. And together with the Gates Foundation, we have brought to life a program together to look at some of these proteins that we are developing and how they can help also the smallholder growers in different places in the world to live out of what they have in their fields and help them to protect that safely as well. So I think it's always this dual approach, is to find a way. Of course, you need to have a commercial end. You need to live off what you do. But on the other side, you need to look, and that's what your question was before about the different pillars of the ESG, sustainability, you name it, is about the societal impact. That's where we need to focus as well, to be able to help the people that are most in need with this balance that we are trying to strive. So becoming more responsible on our hand in terms of how the food importance is for us, but also becoming more responsible in terms of helping other people to have access to that food when and if we can.
We love the comment about Africa and the Gates Foundation. The team are just WhatsApping me as we're talking. Not because we're quite parochial as to where we live. People don't realise that the 10 fastest growing cities in the world are all in Africa, and they all need to be fed. The likes of South Africa, they export 4.5 million tons of fresh produce every year. And internally, they sell 3.5 million tons of fresh produce within South Africa alone. And Africa, as we all know, is a massive continent. So the fact that, and I knew you won't, but the fact that you're not just looking at a European market, that your technology can go on a global basis is music to our ears, because we need to feed the world. Just to top and tail that whole Africa bit, not to bore you with it, I'm well traveled within Africa, and there's a big problem within Africa, especially like West Africa, that people think that being a farmer is like being a peasant. And that's why there's so much urbanization going on in Africa, that all the younger generation are running off into the city thinking they're going to become an accountant or a doctor. And unfortunately, Patrice, worst case, they end up being a beggar or a prostitute or something dreadful like that. So there's some of our clients that are desperately trying to bring in school schemes to educate the kids. And there's an amazing business called Blue Skies, who are based in Ghana, largest private employer in Ghana, and their school farms project. They 50-kilometer range of their main site. They send all the schools seeds, tools, and fertilizer, and they have a school competition. And whoever's grown the best crop gets computers and mobile phones for the school. And what they've seen is that the truancy rate drops and the attendance rate goes up. And teachers also start picking up pieces of land because they've got intrigued, and they start. And we all forget about this joy of growing things, whether that be a farmer with 4,000 hectares, or whether that be a smallholder in Ghana or Zambia. So again, with your technology to bring that in on a smallholder basis through the Gates Foundation, or on a larger basis with a larger company, that's Patrice, that's music to our ears.
Well, that's part of what we do. Of course, we, as now a public company for a year, we have to make sure that we make we continue to grow the company in terms of value for our own shareholders. But at the same time, I think it is important, and you see that more and more in terms of the ESG angles. You see that we need to worry about what is around us. Of course, our own business, making it as clean as possible, but also worrying about what is around us in terms of the environmental impact. A lot of investors that we talk to today are very concerned about, they like the story, of course, of Biotalys, and they like it because they are very concerned about the lack of let's say sustainability in a number of other businesses that exist out there. So we are in the right frame at the right time, and we have the chance again to get great support from different partners, including the Gates Foundation, who is a great support. As you can imagine, we couldn't do that by ourselves. It's a great support for us to work on such a program, which is to look back into what we said before. If you think about the impact and the way our young generation in our own organization sees the impact through what we do with the Gates Foundation, it's amazing. Everybody's so excited about what we can do and the impact that our technology may have in the future.
And I love the bit that you said about that you're now a listed company. I was always taught from an early age, you're in business to do two things, Patrice. You're in business to have fun and to make money. But actually, listening to you and a number of other businesses, I think it is to have fun, to do good, and to make money. And that money is not to drive this BMW that I keep on banging on about. Citroens are available, but to actually be able to reinvest for the future. So just on that side, how can we help yourself and colleagues at Biotalys? What sort of businesses, what sort of individuals, what sort of groups should be approaching you and Biotalys to engage with you, to deploy your technology, to buy your services? Who should be approaching you, please?
Oh, you want the full list? Because it's going to take a long time. No, thank you, Max, for that question. I think today we are a science-based company, so we want to work with as many people as possible within the entire food value chain, because we are not just a crop protection company. We perceive Biotalys as a food protection company. Excellent. Across the entire food value chain. Where can our technology help from the seed in the ground to the retail? Basically, there is so much loss, there is so much opportunities to find alternative solutions, to find new ways to protect the food. And if you have a protein that is by essence completely innocuous to humans and to the environment, and if you can apply that at the farm gate, beyond the farm gate, towards a later stage, and continue to protect the food that you have, that's also what we are looking at. So it's all about distribution in different countries, in the UK and in other places, with our first product that is we are expecting to get the EPA registration in the US by the end of this year.
Brilliant.
And then it will come to Europe a couple of years later. So we have already a first product that is coming in. We are looking for distributors. We are looking for partners. We want also to invent new products with partners, because that's what we aim at, like we do with the Gates Foundation. We want to find the key challenges that the people have and try to see how our technology can match what the chemical pesticides cannot do today for different reasons, and where we can potentially find some additional, let's say, commercial value and value for our technology across, again, the entire food value chain.
And I love your word, partners. The word that I've sort of adopted over the last couple of years is collaboration. That we mustn't be siloed in our thinking. If we can all collectively hold hands together, we can actually do more good and have more fun, and be able to reinvest into our businesses by having that collaborative approach. Right, and then there's that classic example of the, I'm sure you heard of the expression, the Dutch diamond, where they have education, the trade, and government, and they have this virtuous circle where they all work with each other on a seamless basis to create good within the farming and the horticultural sectors. Within the UK, we've got a bit of a hiccup with our government. I'm sure you've heard about it. So there's a bit of a concern there. But just to see if we can also help with those partnerships and those collaborations. So people dart into these networks, whether it be businesses or universities, be that there in the UK, or you would be open for them to contact yourselves and your colleagues to look to collaborate?
Absolutely. Reach out, spread the words. This is all what we are aiming at Biotalys. We are, by essence, a very collaborative organization. We have many partners around the world already, but that's how we grow. That's how we de-risk. And that's how we continue to create value, is by working together. So we are not here to reinvent the wheel. We want our technology to be applied where it fits the best, and where it helps the people to solve the key challenges that they have. That's it. So if you have some ideas, if you want to reach out, if you want to know more, just come back, visit the Biotalys site, reach out, and we will engage the discussion. That's how it starts.
Well done. I could just tell when we were in our green room earlier that you were up our collaboration. We just love businesses that are looking to be open and look to engage in this sort of dialogue, because it is the future. It is the way that we have to go. Patrice, just before we wrap up, how can we find out more about your business? How can we engage with you? Have you got any other speaking gigs or conferences or exhibitions that are coming up that we can find you all at, please?
We are mostly, of course, there is the website, the www.biotalys.com, where you can find a lot of information, press releases for everybody to look into. We also are mostly present in one of your previous discussion with other people. You mentioned Fruit Logistica, for example.
Yes,
we were present there. Also, we do not have a booth because that's not the point, but we are here to discuss with people. We are in all the agri-tech forums, agri-tech conferences that you can find all over the world. There is one coming to London. I think it's in September. So we are present where agriculture is present, and we try to be here more and more with our people, as I said, that are representing Biotalys in the different continents.
Excellent. And if you're looking online, I'll make sure I tag Biotalys with the website so that you can engage. The team are just WhatsApping me. Love this conversation with Patrice. We've got to find out more about the business and see how we can all engage with you. It is the future. Ask Patrice the question. So here comes the question to wrap up. What is your favorite fresh produce, please?
My favorite fresh produce. It's a simple tomato from the garden. That's it.
Excellent. And did we about 6 months ago we had one of the larger growers of tomatoes in the UK, and he said something that was so seminal to me. I was banging on to him about, you need a brand, and he said, no, Max, you're wrong. We need to get our tomatoes in the mouth of little children, because there's nothing like it. And as per your example, and actually that night I didn't have any tomatoes at home, so I went to the supermarket and I got some tomatoes, and it is the best, isn't it? When you've got your mind focused on that, so that first bite into a gorgeous tomato grown with love and care, whether it be a commercial grower using your technology, or whether it's be from your own garden, it is definitely the way to go. It is better than a bar of chocolate or a bag of crisps anytime.
Absolutely.
Patrice, thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you in person at these various events, and just to drive this whole point again about partnerships and collaborations, please look at Patrice's profile and also that of Biotalys. It is the future, this type of business, and for them and their technology, what they can do with growers as we found out on a European international basis is going to be seismic, and it's going to change our thinking and the way that this whole sector is going to go. We need to support and drive and deploy this innovation, because it is the future. Patrice, thank you very much for your time, and yeah, we look forward to meeting you in person in real life very shortly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patrice. Thank you. Bye.